Meredith with ExtremeTerrain.com, and today we're checking out the Barricade HD front winch bumper with LED lighting fitting all 2014 through 2021 Toyota Tundras. If you're looking for full width protection out of the front bumper, in addition to one that's going to be fully inclusive and capable for whatever trail or off-road trip that you're going on, this front bumper is going to fit that mold. This will be a great addition to your Tundra if you're looking for an all-in-one bumper to fit your winch recovery and protective needs, in addition to any tough abuse that your build may see, and it will be moderately priced to save some room in your budget for other fun mods. This will come with benefits within the build and shape of the bumper, along with the functional qualities included in the package. Now, starting off for the build of it, this is going to have a taller midsection, and it will have angled up ends for better clearance for more aggressive tires or obstacles off-road, and the sharp and boxy construction is going to add that tough look to the front. Along with the protective width up top, this is going to have a bull bar for lower grille protection and does come out from the bumper to stop any hazards in its path before getting to the grille potentially. This will also have LED lighting, which is going to be a huge step up from your factory lighting for increased visibility on darker and remote roads, in addition to light mounting options on the bull bar. We'll also have recovery features like the winch plate that is capable of a pulling capacity of up to 12,000 pounds, and it will include quality shackles with isolators for any sticky situation that you may encounter, putting 2 recovery points on the front, not including that winch. This will have a full steel plate construction, being heavyweight to bear the force of a winch, and again, being able to take whatever abuse that it may encounter. It also has sporty cutouts that are there for some good looks, but around the winch up at the top here, this is going to have a cutout, so you're going to be able to access the winch and maneuver the clutch freely without any question. Now on top, it's also going to have a 2-stage epoxy pre-coat and a fine texture black powder coat for rust resistance and to protect from any surface scratching. It's also completely bolt-on, not requiring any modification, and comes with a full wiring harness, so you don't have to worry about any complicated wiring to get those LEDs working. Now this is about $1,900, which, like I said, compared to others like it, it is going to be more in the middle as far as pricing is concerned, considering bumpers can be priced upwards of $3,000. Now others lower on the spectrum usually will not include winch capability or additional lighting, making this, again, more capable for off-road scenarios than other entry-level choices. Now it still is a little bit steeper of a price, but if you want to invest in a bumper that's going to be more than capable off-road, turn heads on-road, and is going to protect the front end of your truck without having to cut or modify anything, this is going to be a great solution for you. Install will be a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter and should take you about 2 hours or so to get this fully installed on your Tundra. It is pretty heavy and it is pretty big, so I would recommend just having an extra person to help you get this mounted up. However, at this point, we can head over to our shop and check out a detailed breakdown on how you can get this onto your Tundra at home. So that's going to wrap it up for my review. Let's go ahead and get into the install.
The tools you'll need for this project are an impact gun, a 3/8 and 1/4 inch drive ratchet, a short 3/8 extension, a 10 and a 12 millimeter socket, a 17 millimeter socket, a 14 millimeter wrench, and a trim panel removal tool. Hi everyone. Today we're installing a front bumper on our Tundra, so let's get started by watching a short video on how to uninstall the stock bumper.
First thing we're going to do is, now that we have our vehicle up, now we're using a lift. If you're at home, you want to jack your vehicle up, make sure you use jack stands to properly secure your vehicle. We're going to start by removing this push pin, these 2 10 millimeters, and 1 13 millimeter back here. Once we get those off, then we'll be able to lower our splash guard. So we're going to get started. Now I'm going to take my clip removal tool and remove that push clip. Now that we have that out, I'm going to take my 10 millimeter and remove these 2 bolts here on my impact gun. So now that we have our 2 10 millimeters out, we have our push clip out, we have 3 more bolts, one here, and one here. We have one that's a little different size because ours has been apart a bunch of times, but these are, the rest of these up top here in the front are 12 millimeter. So we're going to remove them with our gun and our 12 millimeter. Now I'm just going to hold this up and remove the last one. I came on this side so I could take a look at it. You're gonna have to just lift up and slide it over to your left, and then it should come down. It's kind of got hooks in it that hold it in. And now that we have this removed, we'll go on to our sides and start removing our splash guards. Okay, next what we're gonna do is remove our splash guard. We're gonna remove these 4 10 millimeters. We have a plastic clip back there and 2 12s and another 10 underneath. Well, first we'll concentrate on these. So I'm gonna take my ratchet and 10 millimeter and remove these 4 bolts. Now we have those done, we'll get back there and remove that clip. Now I'm going to take my clip removal tool, get inside here, and pop our plastic clip out. Next, we'll go under the bottom and remove our 2 12 millimeters and the 10 millimeter, holding our splash guard on. Now we're going to remove our 2 10 millimeters underneath here, followed by our 2 12 millimeters. I'm going to take my ratchet, my 10 millimeter socket, now that we have our 2 10 millimeters, I'm going to go into removing our 2 12 millimeters, taking my 12 millimeter socket and ratchet. Now that I have those two removed, we should be able to remove our shield and our wheel well, and it should just come off pretty much just like that. Now you're going to want to repeat the same procedure on the other side. So now we're going to remove our 2 electrical connections for our fog lights. There's one here, there's a clip here we're going to have to remove with our clip tool, and there's one up here that we're going to have to disconnect. So I'm going to start by unplugging our fog light and squeeze the tab, pull that off. I'm going to take my clip removal tool and pull that clip out. And then I'm going to go up in here and disconnect this by pushing the tab in and pulling out our harness. And now that we have that disconnected, we're going to move on to removing our tow hooks. Now we're going to disconnect our toe tabs by removing these 2 17 millimeter bolts right here. I'm going to take my 17 millimeter on my gun and remove these 2 bolts. Just going to want to repeat that same procedure on the other side. Next, we're going to loosen the 4 bolts, 3 out here and 1 in here for our bumper brackets. I'm going to take my 14 millimeter ratcheting wrench, get in here and loosen these up. I'm going to remove them all but one and just run one all the way out, but keep threads on it so that the bumper does not fall. And it's pretty good right there. Now we'll get the one on the inside. Now you're going to want to repeat the same procedure on the other side. So now we got everything unhooked. We're going to remove our bumper. I got Joe giving me a hand because this baby's pretty heavy. So we're going to grab it and take it off. Just like that.
Now that we've got our stock bumper removed, we can go ahead and start assembling our new one. First thing we're going to do is install our winch plate, which our bumper is then going to bolt to once we get it installed. So let's go ahead and get our winch plate installed. Now our winch plate is actually going to mount to the factory studs where our bumper originally was at. So we'll be reusing the factory nuts to hold it in place. Now at this point, if you're installing a winch on your bumper, now is the time to do that. Go ahead and get it mounted up here to the plate, get your wires run so you got power to the winch, because once we put the bumper on here, you're not going to be able to access this. So now's the time to do that. We're not installing a winch on our vehicle today, we're just focusing on the bumper. So let's go ahead and finish that install. Next thing we're going to do is install the nut plates on the back of these braces on the back of the bumper. Once we've got these installed on there, then we can lift the bumper up and install it using the supplied bolts and washers. Now I found the best way to keep these in place is just use some tape on the back of the nut plate and tape it to the back of the brace here. Now you'll notice that there's a cutout in these nut plates, and that's because there is a welded gusset plate on the back of these braces here that this needs to slide over. So we'll go ahead and take off a piece of tape. Apply it to the back of our nut plate. And now we can go ahead and put our nut plate in place. Line up the holes. And now you can repeat that process for the other side, and then go get yourself a buddy to help you lift this up into place. All right, now that we've got a buddy, we can go ahead and lift this up and get it installed. Now, it is a little difficult to see in here with the camera. So you kind of have to have maybe even a second set of hands in addition to your buddy holding up the other side. And then you can get the bolt started. All right, now that we've got all of our mounting bolts in place, now you can make any final adjustments that you need either side to side or up and down. Get it where you want it to be, and then we'll go ahead and start tightening up all of our mounting bolts. And now we're going to start off with our 14mm nuts here that hold our winch plate to the frame. And now we'll tighten up the 3 bolts that hold our bumper to the winch plate using our 19mm socket. And now you can repeat that process for the other side. Now we can go ahead and reattach our skid plate underneath. by hooking it up to this cross member that goes across the front of the engine here and using our 12mm bolts to tighten it up. So we'll insert our hooks on our skid plate into the slot on the cross member. And now we'll insert our 12mm bolts to hold it in place. All right, now we'll go ahead and reinstall our tow hooks with the original hardware. Tighten them up with our 17mm socket. And now you can repeat that process for the other side. And then our final step on the installation is to install our D-rings with the supplied rubber washers into the hooks, and then we'll go ahead and insert our D-ring. And now you can do the same thing for the other side. All right, now that we've got our bumper installed, it's time to run the harness to actually operate the fog lights. As you can tell, we've got a couple of plugs here to be able to plug into the lights, and we've got some power and some negative cables, and we've also got a switch to activate them. So let's get started and just get these wires run so we can get these hooked up. Now that we've got our bumper installed, it's time to run our harness so that we can actually activate the lights. As you can tell, we've got a couple of plugs that will connect to the lights themselves. We've got a couple of power cables and negative cables, and we've got a switch to actually activate them. So let's go ahead and get this harness run so we can get this done. Now we're just going to feed our connectors down through this opening for the grill support down here right in front of the battery. And it's a little difficult to see because of the location, but we'll go ahead and feed this down towards the bottom of the bumper. All right, now we can go underneath the truck and finish pulling the cables down and get it connected to our lights. All right, so as you can see, we've got our harness fed through, partially anyway. So we'll just finish pulling it down through so that we've got enough room to reach the passenger side. Now we can go ahead and run this over, get this plugged in, and then we can plug the driver's side light into this connector. So now we'll just go ahead and plug in our connector here. We'll plug in our connector on the other side. Now you can secure the cable once you're all done, get everything hooked up. You can secure it however works best for you. For our purposes right now, we're just gonna let it hang right here. We'll deal with that later. Now we'll go ahead and plug in the driver's side. Now we can go back up top and connect our power. Now because we are dealing with power, we're just gonna go ahead and disconnect our negative cable. Now we can go ahead and remove the nut on the top of our battery terminal on the positive side using our 12mm socket. Like I say, we're You don't have to remove it, just loosen it up so that we can slide our connector for our red positive. And we do have 2 of those to hook up, so we'll slide those underneath the nut and then tighten it back down. All right, now we can go ahead and reconnect our negative battery cable, and we'll tighten it down with our 10mm socket, and then we'll loosen up, again, the nut on top of the negative terminal and slide our ground cables underneath that. All right, now it's time to go ahead and get our switch inside the cab. Now you can do this however works best for you. I don't know if you want to drill a hole through the firewall to be able to fit this through or whatever, but for our purposes today, what we're going to do is there is a grommet right here next to the master cylinder on the firewall that has a wire harness through it. And because we're not leaving this bumper on as a permanent addition to our truck, we're just going to run our wire through that grommet. So we'll push the grommet out, run our wire through it, and then we can hook up our switch inside. So in order to do this, we're going to go ahead and disconnect our switch right here, push down on the release tab, and separate it. And then we'll feed this coupler here through from the inside of the cab back out here to the engine compartment, because it's easier to get that through than it is this big wide switch. All right, now because it's so dark and it's so crowded in there, there's no way we're gonna get the camera and me in there to be able to run this through at the same time. So I'll try and describe this as best as possible, how we're gonna run it. You can choose to run yours however, what works for you. So what we're gonna do is run our end of our switch right underneath the hood release handle, right here. There is an opening that'll go right through there. So we'll feed this through. Like so. And now we have a direct line to the grommet and the wiring harness that we talked about earlier next to the brake pedal. So we'll go ahead and feed this through, and I'll meet you back in the engine compartment so we can reconnect this to the rest of the harness. All right, we've got the connector for the switch pushed through the grommet now. So now we're just going to reach inside, right next to the master cylinder, pull the rest of that cable out, and reconnect it to the rest of our harness. Now we'll go ahead and connect them up. And now the only thing left to do now is go back inside and mount our switch to the dash. All right, now as I said earlier, you can mount this wherever it works best for you. We're just gonna mount it right here next to our hood release handle. And before we do, we're gonna use an alcohol pad, clean off the area, make sure that there's no kind of conditioner or anything like that on there. That way the tape will stick on the back of the switch. So we'll go ahead and remove our alcohol pad. Wipe down the area. Give it a couple minutes to dry up, and then we'll go ahead and attach our switch. All right, so we're just gonna remove the backing off our double-sided tape on the switch. Go ahead, press it into place. And our installation is now complete. And that wraps up our review and install of the Barricade HD front winch bumper with LED lighting for your 14 to 21 Tundra. Thanks for watching, and remember, for all things Tundra, keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.